All right, so let's just go ahead and call the meeting to order now. It's our custom to do introductions, see who's in the room with us this morning. So I'll start here, just say name and organization or just name and organization. So Tyrone Nelson here representing Rickham County.
Neil Gibson, City Attorney's Office.
Barb Smith, Chesterfield.
Nicole Jones, City of Richmond.
Ellen Robertson, City of Richmond.
Earl Hughes in Rickham County.
Joanne, GRTC.
Jim Mabel, Chesterfield County.
I'm Dina Arnstein, transportation reporter with the Hindu Citizen. I'm partnership with RIA.
Where's GRTC?
Kevin Hernandez, GRTC.
Jana Swift, GRTC. And Lucy Sharping. Ashley Potter, GRTC.
Chantine Wilkie, GRTC.
Johnson Zola, GRTC. Michael Hurt, GRTC.
Some way driving. You are in the GRTC.
Tommy Thompson, GRTC.
Dan Wagner, City Richmond.
Brigitte Carter, RideFinders.
Patricia Robinson, GRTC.
Exeter, GRTC.
All right, good morning, everyone. We have Dave Anderson is with us online, and I think he hey Dave, good morning. We see you. He is caring for a sick family member, and so I think that allows him to be able to participate remotely, and his vote still counts if we vote on anything, right? Yeah. All right. So we need to make a motion to accept Dave and
Second.
second. And we accept Dave Anderson and all in favor, say aye.
Hi, if I can.
Hi, good morning. Public comments. So we have no public comments this morning. CEO's report.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Mine will be brief. First, as normal, we will acknowledge our employees of the month. First one that we have here is We Drive You Customer Service. Representative Tyrese Hemingway. Tyrese has been employed with We Drive You for 4 months and has already received 4 commendations for his mannerisms, patience, and professionalism. He exemplifies the standard of excellence we strive to set for all We Drive You employees. So we want to congratulate him.
The president.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the other 2 could not be with Supervisor Fred von Waski. I think I pronounced that right. He works nights. He got until late last night. But since arriving at GRTC, Fred has demonstrated a strong work ethic and clear commitment to passenger service. He consistently staffs the DTS downtown transfer station as the late car, helping ensure no passengers are left behind. He proactively checks in with operators to confirm their well-being late at night and responds quickly to a wide range of incidents, including mechanical, traffic, and behavior issues. Overall, Fred exemplifies the qualities of an effective road supervisor and is a reliable presence in operation. So we want to congratulate him in his absence. Give him a hand clap. This is Catherine Lehman. Catherine is the mobility manager who oversees our link service and our care service. She joined GRTC less than a year ago and has already made a significant impact on the mobility department. She provides exceptional support to the link division, proactively addressing operational concerns to ensure uninterrupted service to the community. She has also helped implement policies that improve efficiency across link and care and strengthen communication with the care community by leading the return of the Care Advisory Council. Her dedication and consistently strong service are greatly appreciated. So we want to thank Catherine for all that she does for our specialized transportation. And last thing on my agenda is our Tap into Transit Day. Last week's Tap into Transit Day was a tremendous success and a strong demonstration of the community support for open access transit. The event brought together riders, community members, regional partners, sponsors, artists, and elected officials to celebrate the impact of public transit across our region. This event increases our awareness of the importance of accessible public transportation. So we continue to build upon it and reinforce that public transportation is essential to keep our region connected and moving. So we want to thank all of our artists, our sponsors, our partners, our volunteers, and riders who made this event possible. But I want to do a special shout out to our awesome staff for all their hard work and dedication to making this event a success. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Madam CEO. It was, Tapping the Transit Day was a really cool event. It is good to see, just a broader community come out. And, I think last year, because it's the second one, right? Last year we were downstairs in the train station, which was good, but it's just that being on the second floor of the train station is just pretty cool. So, but you saw everybody there. So, I mean, the riders and those who support free transit and our staff, everybody. I don't know all the people that made it happen, but if you had something to do with Tapping the Transit Day, thank you. Really turned out to be a really good event, and we say thank you for that. All right, approval of May 19th, 2026 RideFinders board meeting minutes and June 16th GRTC board meeting minutes.
Second.
All right, moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, let's move into development. We do have an action item. It was a huge part of our packet. 2026 Title VI program update. Patricia Robinson, where are you? You want to come on? And it's page 8 right now on the iPad in front of us.
So we do an update to our Title VI program every 3 years, matching FTA's circular and standards that they set forth. So this is that program update. So moving forward, every service change that we implement, if it hits those metrics that it decides it's a major change and that it's a significant impact to our community, we make sure to follow the methodology listed in the program update to make sure that there is no disproportionate burden or disparate impact to our riders. So this is that program update. We also concluded a policy survey to better understand the public's knowledge of our Title VI program and resources available. We had 280 respondents to that. Most were aware that we did have a Title VI policy and reported an overwhelming percentage that they did not have any barriers or felt that they had any barriers in access to transit, which is always great to hear. So based on that community feedback and reviewing our own service standards and industry standards, we have not made a change to our methodology. We just kind of updated the grouping from last year. We had two Title VI complaints that we noted in the report. Last year was one, or the last update 3 years ago was one. The one before that was two. So we're kind of right on that, just a couple across that 3-year span. Our service area did increase this round to include our 6-member transit zone. So there's a jump in our service area, but that's to be expected. And then we identified Spanish as our safe harbor language in our language assistance plan that's outlined. So we'll continue to follow suit and make sure that all of our essential documents for riders are translated in both English and Spanish. Of my highlight, and then we updated the marketing portion, the marketing plan just a little bit to include things like the new DTF signage and infographics, making sure that we use all of our appropriate resources when we are giving riders information about those service changes and impacts.
Question.
On the 2 valid Title VI complaints, there was nothing that was in the policy that needed to be updated from it. So I'm assuming that was a failure of on the person implementing the program, not the program itself, because we're not. Okay,
two, in this case was specific to the public, so two members of the public filed a Title VI claim. And we were able to validate through camera footage and through our protocol that the event did happen, or the intent behind it. So FTA requires that we highlight any complaints that we've had, the summary, the date.
I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't, we said we had no changes that we needed to make. I just wanted to make sure that those items that were found to be valid are actually addressed in policy. It just was a failure of properly implementing the policy. That's good.
Yes.
Any other questions? So you said we do this every year? Every 3 years? Okay, all right. Questions? All right, if not, we need to accept this into validated report. We need a motion to accept the 2026 Title VI program.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved in second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Ms. Robert. Everybody else who worked on it. All right, information items. These are not voting items, just things to update us on. So we'll start with Transit Access Partnership and Advertising Program update from Ms. Torres, and she'll also do the regional transit planning update as well.
Good morning.
Morning.
So these are informational and PowerPoint and share for both of them. So this is an update on our community and business partnership efforts in that space, which we have titled Transit Access Partnership. So first, I want to cover a little bit more, and Cheryl and Mr. Nelson highlighted the event. Other presentation. I want to give some stats to it. So they acknowledge this is year 2. Year 1 was bringing the community together, meeting with our partners, kind of understanding the need as well as kind of a call to action. We celebrated our RICHMOND last time. We had done so many ribbon cuttings, so that was kind of GRTC has kind of started some expansion in the region, celebrated the microtransit. Year 2 is more about activating the community. So we were able to, with that, we were actually engaged ourselves with the local artist community, which is just amazing collaboration that just continued to evolve. So kind of the theme behind it was the graffiti. They were graffiti artists primarily. We were very, very excited to work with them. So overall, we had a 10-bay design, so really highlighting our big transit project that's in the real near term. That had art, education, regional impact, community, and then highlight, of course, the future of transit. The number isn't exact. Last year, we estimated that we had about 400 in that downstairs space. We think we exceeded that this time, about 400 plus attendees. Space was continuously filled, even though it was humongous upstairs. Overall, last year, we had about 20,000 in financial sponsors, which was amazing at that time. We challenged ourselves and our community and vendors rose to the occasion. We had 40 plus in financial sponsors, in-kind sponsors, those who could not give financial. We're happy to just participate in the silent auction. And with that, we received over 20,000 plus. And if you guys, we have an image of it, but it just looked amazing. Our new corporate and community relations program manager, May, took her background in fundraising and just worked with the community and was able to give them to understand the need, understand transit, and be able to bring them in, even if they couldn't bring anything financially. So,
Question for you. How did we get connected with the artist piece again? Like, where did that come from?
I work with the city on a Broad Street task force, and on that includes a lot of local businesses downtown. And one particular individual, her name is Liz Kincaid. She opened she had connections with that group, and she brought all of us together to kind of talk about the Broad Street task force area. And in that space, they also wanted to talk about the zero fare and how we could collaborate together. And so they had this idea, we think our art could sell. And so with that, I came back to our marketing team and we just talked about how do we really make this work and actually make it work with maybe this effect. So it just kind of continue from there. So they approached us with an idea that they really wanted to support the group there.
That's pretty cool. It definitely added something different. I mean, it made you feel like on that day you were, like if you kind of walked around, paid attention. I mean, I don't know if I've seen that before.
Yeah. And then we decided that's the art part, the silent art auction that is still open and it closes at the end of this week. If you have not looked at the online auction, you may have seen them in person, but seeing them up close with those pictures and then reading, I came back, hadn't done it before, but the narratives from the artists that describe why they want to be part of it is just inspiring and moving. And then we started, and now we can share those links as well, but with this was like a catalyst to start a merchant store. And so our marketing and comms team has curated certain items that we now have for sale. And those already sold 3,000 plus with some of the other swag that was there at the event. So very exciting. So I'm gonna Dexter's gonna click that for me. And DPW was there with their comms team, and they did a video to kind of capture the essence of the event. And I was just showing some slides that our team also put together of it. But they went around, and it was good the way they talked to some of the core partners. They talked to the artists and kind of walked around the event to really capture from their perspective how the event was. Good.
So you think we raised so much money so far, you think? I mean, just for that day, what was it, about 50? Like about 50,000.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tap Into Transit, Richmond's one and only Transit Access Partnership Program.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Torres, Chief of Staff at Greater Richmond Transit Company. We are here at our annual Tap Into Transit Day event. This year, we have kind of transformed Main Street Station to become a downtown transfer hub.
You might be wondering why the City of Richmond is here if GRTC is responsible for transit.
The City of Richmond and GRTC are strong partners. So many of our goals here as a city rely on having a strong transit system and a great relationship with GRTC, and also to raise money to make sure we can keep the GRTC fare free.
I'm excited because my piece that I created, young girl standing on top of the world holding a heart-shaped balloon. I love that this program supports free rides in the city. I'm hoping that my artwork and other artworks in this exhibit will sell and benefit the program.
Hey, Richmond. I'm at Main Street Station for Tap Into Transit. If you haven't been on the bus yet, what are you waiting for?
Where we have all things culture, all things transit, arts, and the people.
Having reliable transportation across the city footprint, and not just the city, but also into the county, is making a difference. It is a real game changer for many.
I am native Richmond born. I love the bus. I paint murals mostly, but for this event, I got to paint one of the GRTC maps.
Hey, I'm Justin with GRTC. You might have seen me on Instagram, TikTok, or maybe even on television. And we're here at Tap Into Transit.
I am the artist of this side of the bus. I just saw it was a cool opportunity to bring two fields together, transit and art community.
I think we're always looking for finding ways to bring art to the communities that we're a part of and making it more accessible.
I'm a local artist here based in Richmond, Virginia. This is about equity, and that's what we do here as artists, is that we try to help community as much as we can. And this was all to bring awareness and to raise money to keep the buses free for everyone here in Richmond.
Oh, I get it. That's the Richmond Department of Public Works. I was like, Jim, what's up? We're not in the video. I get it now. I get
Asked me
it.
if I'm doing an interview, but I needed to run to it.
Okay, that was incredible. Yeah.
That's right.
They
Yeah.
did ask me if I'm doing this.
Where is that video? I want to post. I like that video. That was nice. Nicole,
We can send out the link after. Yeah.
Nicole had her sunglasses on.
That's how you know.
On that screen.
Dollars. Yes, those are dollars. Yeah, I would say overall right now, we're still working on the calculations inside of our options to open, but I would say somewhere 50 is.
So 50 and then about 20 in cash.
20 income, yeah, and so the.
Not 20 of the, it's 40 real and then it's 20 in cash.
Income things. Definitely. And the three artists at the end, the one who spoke at the beginning about the idea, that was the one, Silly Genius, who kind of came up with it. The
So
bus you haven't seen is also amazing.
So that bus at the end, that bus is en route in the city.
No, so, talking to Kevin, I told him I needed a bus. And then we got a decommissioned bus, but it still works. So that is gonna become, so any of the jurisdictions or any of the
Okay,
organizations, that's a community bus now.
okay,
So we want to end up activating the space, the inside, and make it educational. And take it
okay,
to schools.
okay, I like that.
So continue on.
Oh, I
And then to share some, this is just pictures, of the event that captures all of the jurisdictions, not just city of Richmond. So it's worth it.
I love the Main Street train station. It's just when I'm up there, it's just so, you can see the whole city pretty much. It's beautiful. Yeah.
There is, there's music, but you make it bigger. Right button. Oh. Start over, sorry. Great. People came, being ready. Yeah. Cool. Did that. I know. I couldn't see it. I saw it. It's a video. I didn't do it.
Was that a bus? She was wearing a bus.
Yes. DJ donated his time inside the bus. I'm just really excited to see everyone kind of come together. Thanks, guys. All right, so we're already planning for next year, but some other updates with for just the community and business partnership is more of the, I guess, business partnership side with right now and showing as our advertising program. Just want to give you guys kind of a glimpse where we are right now. Rachel, our advertising program manager, continues to really work, and we're getting a lot of interest in the wraps on the bus as well as our other assets. So our goal last year, and there's a slide that I'm gonna keep going, was $600,000. And I think I updated you guys last time that we ended the year around 700. So she outperformed what we had set. And this year we have set an even higher bar for ourselves, knowing what we did last year, aiming for $1 million within this budget. And within the first 20 days or so, we're already about $150,000. So that Rachel, as well as the marketing department, is doing really well. We hopefully meet and exceed that goal also this year. So whether it's just part of the Transact partnership through the community collaboration or the advertising, we are really seeing TAP support. So it's very, very exciting for that to get lucky. On to the next topic. So this is actually going to be tag team with me and Martha. And Martha is up first. We've done several studies, and Martha and her team have just closed a study very, very related to zero fare, but transit investment in general. It's in Andover.
Morning.
Morning.
So yeah, just a little bit of background for everybody. I think you all are fairly familiar with this, but Plan RBA has been an active partner with GRTC for a very long time. But I wanted to just sort of talk a little bit about kind of the beginnings of this next evolution of our relationship with GRTC. Really, I think tracing back to the formation of the CDTA and that transportation transit governance study that was part of the legislation that introduced the CDTA in 2020. As you all know, there's a dedicated revenue source from tax sales and fuels tax that supports GRTC service and has been a big topic of conversation across the 9 counties in our footprint about what that revenue means to expansion of transit service across the region. That discussion about the revenue and the opportunity to think more holistically across the region for transit service led to a rural transit study that Plan RBA and the Richmond NPO, the TPO, undertook 2 years ago to be able to evaluate the emerging needs in our rural communities as it relates to transit. That study was pretty much coincidental with the launch of many of the microtransit link zones that GRTC launched during that time. And so not only do we have a lot of really great community-based data about the needs and the challenges of folks in our more rural communities and their access to opportunities and services and education and work, but we also have the real ridership data that has been occurring as those microtransit link zones have launched. We've got the transit strategic plan that GRTC and Plan RBA collaborate on. There are a lot of, I'll say, regulatory and kind of codified requirements for our organizations to work together. I think there's lots of language at different levels of our government structures that speak to this, but there's an embedded obligation of our organizations to do these things. And so as GRTC undertakes the transit strategic plan, the regional public transportation plan, that's a requirement to coordinate with the NPO in submission to the CDTA each year, and the plan for use of the CDTA revenue dollars dedicated to transit. We then have an obligation under federal requirements to lead the region's long-range transportation plan. Those of you that sit on the TPO and the commission will hear more about that as we move into our TPO board meeting in September, but we're in the home stretch of delivering the update to our 2050 long-range transportation plan, which covers all modes, thinking about the emerging needs of the region in transportation through 2050. And so as we approach the end of that 2-year planning process for that long-range transportation plan, our next step is to go into political plans, transit, active transportation, bike ped, looking at our freight mobility, really looking at those various modes that are represented in that long-range transportation plan. And so as GRTC is launching the regional public transportation plan, the transportation services plan, it's really kind of an opportunity for us to make sure that those plans sync up and that we're really thinking long-term about the future of those modalities. The long-range transportation plan does call for a mix, and Barb, I'm going to lean on you because you know this a lot better than I do, but there really is truly a multimodal focus in the long-range transportation plan, and that's embedded in the community voice that we heard through the public engagement process, but also through the adopted set of projects in our constrained long-range transportation plan that really do represent the vision for this region to be a truly multimodal community. And so kind of throughout all of that, we undertook a project last year with Zero Fare to understand what the funding opportunities are to be able to maintain and sustain Zero Fare. We know from our member localities, whether they're served by the Link microtransit or the fixed route or the Pulse, the access to transit through the Fare Free program has been important to your constituents and is something that, you know, as of yet hasn't been identified, I guess, as a long-term sustainable funding stream. And so last year we were the recipient of merit funding through DRPT. We matched that with staff time. It was a 1-to-1 match, a $125,000 grant from DRPT, and we matched that with staff time. The grant enabled us to hire consultants to help us look through, kind of do an independent review of the financial forecasting and projections for GRTC's Zero Fare program, and to look nationwide to do a scan of how are other systems tackling this topic. As you all know, GRTC is a leader across the country in its ability to continue to sustain the Zero Fare model for its riders. I think a lot of that has to do with the scale of the system and the uniqueness of a multi-jurisdictional partnership and service region that the GRTC serves. So we had a team of consultants, like I said, sort of on that financial sustainability look and benchmarking across the country. And then we had a group that worked with us internally to do a scan of business leader sentiment about the value of transit in the region, the opportunities that the business community might see to be a partner and supporter of either there or at large transit. I understand this board is giving direction to the GRTC staff to really explore what is the public-private opportunity for being able to maintain and grow this service over time. So I'll hit a couple of highlights. I think we've had about 17 interviews of key business, corporate philanthropy and nonprofit philanthropy leaders who sat down with our representatives to talk through kind of what their understanding of transit is right now, how they understand the financing behind it, and what they think the opportunities are going forward. I will tell you that I personally was really surprised and impressed how many of these community leaders were read into the value of transit in our community and the value that it brings. I think a lot of that comes from they think about their employees and the reality that they know that many of their employees across the region are traversing local government boundaries daily to get to work. And they know that it's important. I think the other thing that they were really impressed by was some of the statistics about post 2020 and the shift to go from a health and safety perspective, the shift to go from fared rides to the zero fare model, and kind of why that has continued to be the practice. As you all know, the volume of essential workers that were reliant on transit during the COVID time, when many folks like me were able to work from home, that was not the reality for a lot of our essential workers. So the ability to protect the safety of our drivers and preserve the social distancing that was required during that time, but also to be able to make sure that we get to work and need to during some really hard times was really important. And so when ridership kind of skyrocketed during that time, I think it was an interesting conversation to have with those business leaders about really what that means for our community. I will confess that these interviews happened kind of on the heels of and right before and right after we went on the inner city visit this year. And so some of these folks had the benefit of being in Phoenix and seeing the benefit of the light rail. And so I don't think that was manipulative, but it definitely was, I think, a timely visit for a lot of those folks to really see what long-range investment in transportation infrastructure can do for the growth and development of the community. So lots of really good positive support on the front of understanding the value of transit, understanding why it matters. I think we all remember when there was all the buzz about HQ2 and Amazon wanting to come, wanting to pick a community, and transportation access is kind of always up on those RFIs when our economic development partners are looking to answer questions from those corporate relocations. And so they know and remember that. And so all of that was really good. I'll tell you, we engaged fundraisers to do these interviews. And so there was a question at the end of the conversation that was like, okay, how much would you like to give? And I think that's sort of the interesting part. There was a lot of interest and I think value opportunity in the benefits of this, but many of the leaders that we talked to simply said, candidly, the dollar amount that we're talking about, the gap, if you will, doesn't feel like it's the right play for the business community right now. And so I think they're very interested in continuing the dialogue with the public sector about what support could look like, but we didn't get a lot of volunteers to write a check. So I think that there's still some more work to be done. We are working on wrapping reports from the financial feasibility study that looks at the different models for how to fund open access transit across the country, and digging into the kind of the sentiments. And I'll be doing some follow-up interviews with a couple of the folks that expressed some interest in having some further conversations about this to really kind of explore this issue. And we're working with the GRTC team and RVA Rapid Transit to really identify kind of what the strategy is as we move into this new fiscal year for everyone. I think that was what you wanted me to cover. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
To go with that, we are hearing that we work together and overlap, but in both of our spaces, we're hearing from all the jurisdictions, of course, the need for transit. Hence, a lot of those studies came, the rural study, because we were doing micro transit in some of the rurals. Others were like, well, what's the full picture of options? So Plan RVA took that on. So it's a lot of complementing. We had applied for funds for the GRTC for the Zero Fare. We know that ran out. So Plan RVA jumped in and said, let's figure out clearly if the region wants it to stay, as well as the region also wants transit. And those are kind of competing because one is about not having enough money and one is about I want more. So they jumped in and looked at kind of what is the need as well as how do we continue to get funds with that. I feel like a big takeaway was that the region was saying that they see the importance and the economic development relevance of transit, as well as the access piece. But as far as how do we get the investment where we it's enough to get what all the needs of jurisdictions wants, we're not there yet. So kind of tying that into TAP, that's going to kind of continue before we have all these TAP meetings or TAP events. We work with our regional partners to continue to have the same sort of conversations with them. So as Martha kind of alluded to, we're going to take a strategy, jump back with kind of RVA rapid transit and look at a path forward where we can kind of continue the conversation. So with that, also, we had to take a step back and look at the need. Every year we come to you guys with the regional public transportation plan to look at the next year. But now that all those studies have been done and the jurisdictions all have needs and we're not necessarily incorporated in our transit strategic plan that is updated every 5 years, we want to take the opportunity to sit with all 9 jurisdictions to develop a regional plan that is over the next 5 years so that we can kind of react to what is that regional need in terms of financial investment to have the footprint that the region wants. So in January, we've come to you guys a few times, but just want to take you where we are. So in January, we kicked this off. We met with the consultants met with several of I think primarily all the jurisdictions to discuss their needs on a one-on-one basis. We also met with TPO TAP, and then we met with each jurisdictions. They offered also the elected officials. We had quarterly updates. We came to the board, we've gone TPO as well as CBTA just to provide them on how the plan is progressing. And then the big piece is in the beginning of June when summer kicked off, sat down for 3 days with 8 of the 9 jurisdictions, came to the table literally and developed regional transit scenarios. That is kind of just the start, but this shows the jurisdictions that were there. And so the task at hand was to, let's say that we are all at the table, all have a need, but the financial investment for the region is supported at basically what it is today, which we operate what we have. But we know at some point that inflation will catch up a little bit, but we want to be intentional about understanding the regional needs. So they did a concept where there was a high ridership concept where there was a little bit, I guess, less transit investment in terms of basically flat, and what that would look like in a regional model. And then they did a low coverage, a high coverage version. What that just means is lots of lines in terms of footprints, but the frequency is low. That's another scenario. And then they did one that was, of course, the most exciting to create, which was the growth concept, where they ended up putting about 46%. So that's kind of unconstrained scenario. Each jurisdiction, if you had microtransit, if you had fixed route, what do you really need? And this was their planning departments, their economic development departments, their technical staff from like the public works all came together to create these plans. So those are scenarios, and the plan is to just put them out for public engagement to see what the investment desire for the region as a whole is in terms of transit, and then be able to go back and kind of prioritize, of course, based on the actual available funds. And then if there is an opportunity based on all the work that's done, to have an opportunity to move forward with additional revenue, we of course would have a plan to be able to move that forward. So next steps, public engagement, select the preferred regional transit scenario. So we do plan on incorporating this as part of the board retreat, just so you know, so that you guys also will be the ones, of course, putting together the vision based on the input from the public on the various scenarios. And then we'll define kind of what the investment should be based on what the actual financial scenario is. And then plan approval for spring. That ends up being our FY28 regional public transportation. So again, high collaboration with the MPO, Plan RBA throughout this effort. And so this, of course, will go back to the committee. We just wanted to continue to update the full board. James.
We'll go back to the development committee. What committee?
The development committee. Yes.
All right, that was a lot. Any questions? Yes. Barb.
So when you take the scenarios out to the public, how will you have the conversation about money? You know, like everyone's gonna love the high growth one.
Yeah.
How do you get the public's input on, you know, what is their support for additional taxes or whatever? If
So as far as that approach and engagement, so I don't think we work that out specifically, Jerry Walker. I'm sure they have a recipe of how they normally do that, and I can share with you. Like we just flushed out the timeline, Sasha.
Yeah. I think it's important to have the money
Yeah.
discussion. Otherwise, yeah, I want it all for
There's
free.
They updated the 5-year outlook with this as well, so that will also go to, yeah.
All right, hold on, don't. Any other questions?
Quick question. It's more of a comment, feedback. Can you hear me okay? So with respect, when it gets my attention when you say all 9 jurisdictions, especially when we try to calibrate, needs, wants, and all those things. I think Barb mentioned, it's like money attached to it. The needs and wants may be different. Is there going to be part of this study, whether it's the growth or the other models, that basically suggests or the capacity of certain growth models to achieve what is needed for those outlying jurisdictions? I say outlying, but the not the main 3 jurisdictions that are in the room here. As we talk about growth, I want to make sure that we have a tethered graph, essentially, that speaks to the amount of good that can be done by that expansion, because the cost of doing good with expansion, I think, goes up, and tying it back to the money. Is that going to be part of what we receive in terms of interpreting the study?
So you're talking about like the variables that are impacted as transit is expanded, for example, the economic, the health, the education, the improvement in access to all the jurisdictions, if that's going to be part of the report.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. A very simple but too simplified metric is cost per rider. We see that all the time, but it is a good example here in terms of a metric that we can sort of get our arms around as to what growth means.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it would be a lot of metrics, but metrics will be included as far as what would be the impact of this actual expansion.
Yeah, I think it's the coverage, high coverage, just the sort of the cost per rider associated with high coverage versus high frequency.
Okay.
Correction, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, community input now, and who's representing the jurisdictions again in this conversation? Like who, like staff, like what type of staff?
Yeah, so it would be like public works departments, planning departments, and economic development departments.
Okay, so they're already a part, or they will be a part?
So they all came to a 3-day session and they were a part of it for like Henrico County, Chesterfield City were there, I think, all 3 days. And then the smaller footprints were there maybe 1 full day, depending on what they have. And then as far as the individual jurisdiction meetings, those are offered to technical, but also any sort of leadership or elected officials. We'll have another opportunity to engage at that level after.
All right, so you're gonna take the community, take what the staff's jurisdictions have offered, put it together, and then bring it to us at the retreat, and then it'll be up to us to decide which way direction we're going.
More of a policy direction, yes.
Yeah, policy direction, yeah. Well, policy guides the work, so, yeah. All right, any other questions? All right, Martha, yes.
This year, we also have it planned to have a discussion of this process at the September 3rd and 10th Commission and TBO meeting. So those that serve on both will be a part of it twice, but really thinking about how we can bring this conversation to the whole of the region. So that those local elected officials that aren't part of the GRTC governance structure can be aware of the decisions that we face and understand kind of what asks might be coming of them. Should the different scenarios be considered?
I have a quick, with the Tap into Transit Day, and I mean, I guess it's a comment or maybe even a suggestion. I would think about, instead of it just being a one day, maybe really thinking about expanding it as a part of your conversation. So maybe as like a citywide approach to really getting the partners that you are speaking to get them to think about funding it, really thinking about tapping into transit from a more larger, broader perspective and not just a one day event. Because with the success that you've seen from bringing in the art community, there are other communities that you will be able to bring in based off of the buy-in. So really thinking, how do you leverage that? And then when you are going to folks to ask for money, using that process versus it being a one day. I would just offer that.
What you summarize is where we see, it's really going in summarize it pretty well.
Yeah, a question. I guess a question. I don't know if it's a question or comment, but I guess we've been leading up to this parallel in GRTC, we've been looking at a number of policies in place that we haven't adopted yet. Is the thought we will have those policies in place before some of these decisions are made? Because I feel like that may have been part of the challenge last time.
Yeah, so the 5-year was definitely an input that we wanted to the framework, is what you're referencing. So those will also that will now go back to development. You know, we had canceled the last meeting, but we were waiting for that to complete so we could see what all jurisdictions actually have to need as we kind of have the conversations as far as the regional, or what do we call it, regional versus local kind of scenarios as far as baseline investment. But that could be one way to, I guess, fund some of the needs, but based on what she just said, I think that there's a bigger need also as far as greater investment as well, but I think that's a good base. So yeah, it all fits in as part of the same conversation.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So overall, what's the funding that we foresee that we're going to need to meet the gap to continue the no fair transit?
I did not put the 5-year in the PowerPoint, but I bring that to the committees to go over what it was. It is not what it was. A little bit better of an outlook, I feel like, than what we had the last time it was done. Just because we made definitely a huge effort to make sure we are flat, and then incorporating the VRTs where it could be big piece as well, and those have been pushed out a little bit. So I don't have that gap number with me, but I'll bring it to the committee.
Is there estimate of what we expect it could be somewhere within a range that you can give us some sense of appreciation? Because when we talk about fundraising and the strategy that we use for fundraising, and I think it's important that the board begin to think about dedicated sources of revenue within the volume of funding that may be needed versus, and to what percentage perhaps we want to rely upon fundraising to meet that gap, but looking at if it's a much larger, what are going to have to be the big sources that come to the
So
table?
for the 5-year outlook, so they used 20% because that was kind of the gap amount. So we have about $100 million budget today. So roughly about $20 million, I would say about.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? That was just an estimate off top of your head. So we don't want that concreted anywhere, written down, be no news story. Just an estimate, just off top of your head. Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, Martha, for being with us today. All the great work the Plan RVA does. All right, Ms. Robinson and Mr. Hernandez, the July service update.
Oh,
Again, we just have our service updates. These started on the 12th of this month. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. You have seen these before, so this is just going over that we adjusted the layover time on 4A, 4B. So that was the end of line near Oakwood Cemetery. Just adjusting the layover so that we were minimizing the amount of time there was idling bus close to neighborhood homes versus the other end of line that has been more space. Route 5 and Route 20, we adjusted the run times to help improve on-time performance. We have that new software package swiftly, so we've been excited to dig into it and kind of make some adjustments. So that's where we are starting off on 7A and 7B. We had adjusted the layover away from RIC. So we still are servicing the airport. We're just having our layover time so operators can get off the bus without leaving an unmanned bus directly in front of the airport, just down the road at the Waffle House. And then our Route 95, we adjusted service to.
So you're leaving the unmanned bus outside the Waffle House?
Give me unmanned buses throughout the city when they get off.
Right, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Service at RideFinders College, so that bus now stops at the community college, southbound and northbound on the express route trips. And then I forgot to put on here as well, the Route 95 had an end of line change. Petersburg area transit, where our southern end of line is, accessing from one bay to another location, just a couple of feet away. So we just made that quick adjustment to be good partners with the property. And I included this as well, just so that we can keep a beat on all of our changes. So we have our October booking, we have our February reductions based on operator, and then we have what we put back in July. So just highlighting here that our goal isn't necessarily to put all service back from the February reductions, just because those were specifically chosen based on load utilization trips that we were able to cut. So we are strategically putting back trips based on operator count and based on demand. And so these are the trips on 5 and 7A and 7B that went back into place.
Yeah, sure. Questions that we went over for the changes. We just went through our normal, what we do every single time. So we just updated our online information, emailed our service updates to our subscribers. We shared some updates across our social media channels, put the onboard alerts on our entertainment as well. And we also posted printed notices for the 95X specifically that Patricia was mentioning at both the old stop and the new stop, as well as distributed those flyers for the 95X bus operators to the riders.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. So I wanted to provide a quick update where we are with our staffing and some other service metrics. So we closed out the month of May and June with 317 full-time operators. So compared to January, that is a growth. And while it's modest, I do want to point out to us internally that it's a turning point for us right now, because normally we would have had one hire or one graduate, we'll be losing about 2 operators. So we were always behind the 8 ball and trying to keep up with that. So I'm happy to say that in May and June, we got close more to a 1-to-1 ratio. And so now our priority is not only to just maintain that, but flip the script. And for every 2 operators that we have, we're going to lose 1 or none, as I do. I really want to highlight the efforts of our HR and training teams. They've been really hard at work to get us to this point where we are now. So with that in mind, it's forecasting out to September, we're looking to have approximately 323 operators. Now that's taking into account the current staff that we have, and also the number of students that we have in training now, which is 10 as of this month. And that's also factoring in our average of 4 operators and attrition for the month as well. We have monthly classes also scheduled for the rest of the year, so that's going to continue helping us close that gap and staying close to that target and maintaining it as well. Another related note is our absenteeism. This is across the last 6 months has been averaging about 20% or more. We're happy to say that in June, we're down to 17%. And so that's kudos to our transportation team for having those conversations and coaching with our frontline staff. So altogether, our workforce availability has improved. over the past 6 months. And with that related, the percentage of scheduled trips that we have, we've been performing about 99% or better since March, which is also related to just our workforce availability. And then with customer service, we did see a 13% decrease of verified complaints between May and June. And then for this July service change, we've only seen very minimal increase related to that change between February and July. So it's been a smooth transition. So. Any questions?
And that's it, Kevin?
Yes,
All right, thank you, Patricia and Kevin. Let's go to financial reports, Mr. Zanzarella.
Good. All right. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. We're going to go two more. So we're going to be presenting here the May 2026 financials. So this is 11 months. A lot of the trends that we have discussed in the previous months are still prevalent. Go up a little bit higher. So through the 11 months, surplus of 3.5 million, it's narrowing as we had forecasted to our year-end forecast is about $2 million surplus. What we see here is obviously we still see the favorable operating expenses being offset by unfavorable revenues, which net down to the positive $3.5 million surplus. On the revenue side, as we talked before, the 26 budget contemplated a little over $5 million of fund balance being utilized. So that's about half of the unfavorable revenue variance. And the other significant portion, as you can see down here on the expenses and the planning schedule, and that's the consulting projects that were basically federal and state grants that were not in the timeline of this year. So there you see the corresponding unfavorable federal operating contributions to state operating contributions. Go to the next slide. So in here, as we saw the variance, it's 13.4 million. One more slide next. Okay, so looking at the big components of the operating expenses and equipment and facility maintenance, this is driven by lower costs of fleet maintenance, repairs, labor, and slight favorable labor. Transportation is fair by $129,000. So this is due to favorable operator salaries and wages. Slightly unfavorable on the operator, but this is driven by the supervision side. The operators, even as Kevin had shared, was, this is May, so it's 317 versus budget of 325. The overtime is running about 7.7%, which time and a half kind of offsets some of the vacancies. And in the higher absentee rate, utilization of sick, having to replace people to on the extra board of time and a half. Next slide. So here, as we mentioned in the planning and scheduling is these studies, $9.6 million favorable year to date. We had contemplated in when we prepared the 26 budgets that they would occur, so we had the expense as well as the revenue. So that's why we have the offset. G&A is favorable. It's basically on head count. And the operating taxes and licenses, that's basically your FICA Medicare because of the vacancies. Next slide, Dexter. So here are two unfavorable insurance and safety, about $1,089,000. This is based upon the self-insured reserve. So we had talked about the higher instances, and this is where we have a self-insured retention about $350,000. Some cases that have self-insured, we had to reserve up to that amount. Purchase transportation is about $960,000 unfavorable. That's driven by the increased demand for the programs carrying their plus. So that's that. Let's go another one. So forward. All right, we'll talk about Title VI. After that, so we're around like 170 or so. slide. All right, so as we indicated here, here's the full year forecast. We're contemplating around $2 million net surplus. And as you recall, in the adopted 27 budget, we had a forecast of about $2 million. So we're expecting favorable operating expenses offset by the unfavorable operating revenues here. More than about half of it is due to the fund balance. The other significant piece here is the operating contributions on federal and state. We expect operating revenue to come just about as a push, charter revenue offsetting advertising revenue. I'll just make the comment here because Adrian showed, what Adrian's showing is the total booking of advertising revenue. We're accounting, so we have to follow GAAP. So multi-year contracts get amortized. So that's why there's a little disconnect between what she's showing. She's showing total booked business. This is the accounting-based version of it. And then in the other income, we have the RideFinders, which is slightly unfavorable. That's due to headcount. That's lease personnel. They had one less person that was contemplated in the budget, so there's no revenue between the intercompanies. And we have a slight $200,000 performance and interest income, which is in narrowing over the last several months due to the volume of cash. And next slide. Keep going. Keep going. So on our balance sheet, this is our 11 months. So the call outs here, go down a little bit. So I want to talk about the current assets. So comparing June of last year, April, and then May. So as you see, the cash balances, the sum of these three was roughly 19.5 million. We're down about 14. You see receivables are up 17.7 versus 8. That's a function of our federal grant program. We're expecting the execution of their 5307 program in the month of August. So right now we've been basically incurring expenses and putting the receivable from the Fed. So we're hoping that to turn around. Good news, obviously, current assets are up. You can see our investments in PP&E or fixed assets. That's in purchase and rolling stock and other assets. All assets grew $14 million. You can see here, restricted funds, that's our CBTA balance. Restricted funds, that's our financial reserve. That has been earmarked by the members of the board here. And go up a little bit higher. You can see that our offsetting deferred revenues for CBTA, and you see that we have our fund balance has grown slightly from year end. That's where we're showing our surplus currently at $3 million. Next slide. Keep going. The cash flow, one more. Is where I was talking about when we were talking about the receivables. You have here. We're approaching the end of July here. So when you see in the month of August on the federal line, we're expecting the execution of the 5307 grant program, and then we're going to put in a reimbursement. So we're expecting a sizable amount. Also in here, we're seeing a significant capital reimbursement here on the state capital line. That's due to the receipt of Arctic buses that have come in the month of July. So when we pay those invoices, they're 68% reimbursement from the state. That contract's executed. So when we pay the invoice, two of them, I think it's two of them at the end of August, the other two at the end of September will reimburse, and you'll see those proceeds come back in. We're expecting the operating contributions from the city of Richmond and RICO to come in the month of August. Go down a little bit so we can see the bottom. So obviously, we're expecting probably tight at the end of July. You're slightly below over $2 million cash position at the June. We maintain through July, increasing as we get the 5307 money back, and then narrowing with all those payments of the capital at the August, and then our quarterly, we follow that sawtooth. I think that's about it. I'll just go if there's any questions.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions?
One last comment I want to make. We're going to have a finance committee meeting. Currently, we are in the middle of field work for the fiscal 26 audit for RideFinders, and then we'll be commencing the field work with Brown Edwards for the GRTC financial audit at the end of August. So what we're going to have Janice Witt send out to members of the board the required communications that Brown Edwards has. So basically, it introduces who's the partner and the senior manager engagement. It goes through the responsibilities of what Brown Edwards is with respect to the audit, and then also the GRT side. So GRTC side. So you'll see that communication If there's any questions, we can cover it at the August finance committee. Just want to let you all know that will be coming out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, board members, any new business? I have an executive session today, so if no new business, I think we are adjourned. Thank you.
Cool. I was trying to say.
Yeah.
In that section. All right. Those recommendations forward here. Because different basis.